virtuoso saxophonist, composer, arranger, and conductor, Paquito D'Rivera is one of the most important figures in the history of Latin jazz. He's also increasingly gaining a reputation for his contributions to classical music. In fact, he and Wynton Marsalis are the only two artists to ever win Grammys in both the classical and jazz categories. Known for his willingness to voice his beliefs, Paquito was an outspoken critic of the Cuban regime even before he defected from Cuba back in 1980. I spoke with Paquito about his music and his life at the legendary Blue Note here in the West Village. Paquito, by all accounts, you were a child prodigy. At what age did you begin playing a musical instrument?
Well, many years ago.
When at least 15 years ago.
Yeah. My father was a classical saxophone player,
right.
so and he used to practice 26 hours a day. So I had no choice.
What was your earliest musical influence? What kind of music did you begin playing?
At home, we were very Ellingtonians, in the sense that the great Duke Ellington said there is only two kinds of music, good and the other stuff. So one of my first LPs, jazz LPs, still today is one of my favorite. Was a wonderful recording live at Carnegie Hall, Benny Goodman, with Lionel Hampton and Ziggy Elman, the wonderful Teddy Wilson on the piano, and all those musicians. And I asked my father, what is that? What type of music? He told me, that is swing. And that was recorded at Carnegie Hall. When he said Carnegie Hall, I understood carne y frijol. For those of you that doesn't know what is that, carne y frijol is meat and beans. He said, no, carne y frijol, no. So I don't know what happened. That doesn't have nothing to do with my mother cook every day. You know?
So you played Afro-Cuban music, you played Latin music, and you played jazz music from the beginning?
Yeah, I tried to copy Benny Goodman with my soprano saxophone.
When did you
start? Today I try to do it.
When did you start mixing them together, putting them together?
That was part of of my life all the time, since the beginning. Always playing different type of things, and that was the education I received also. Because I used to go to the symphony rehearsals, and to the La Banda Municipal also with Gonzalo Roy conducting. I sit in the band, in Gonzalo Roy's band, because he was a friend of my father. My father was a friend of all the musicians there.
I read that shortly after the triumph of the Cuban Revolution, your mother said to you and your father, hey, this is not going to go well. The best thing we can do is get out of here very soon. But you didn't. You stayed. How did that affect your musical development?
Jazz was a four-letter word,
right.
Literally.
Right. I heard that it was considered a degenerate art, and that the saxophone was an imperialist instrument at one point.
Yeah. The saxophone was an imperialist instrument, and jazz is a four-letter word. And well, that happened before. This is nothing new. That happened in Mao's China, and Stalin's Russia, and that happened in Hitler's Germany too. Yeah. All dictators from the left or from the right, they are dictators. You know, and jazz is a dangerous style of music because it means it's the best definition of freedom and democracy.
But that attitude, that negative attitude towards jazz couldn't have lasted because it was precisely in Cuba that you and Chucho Valdés and Arturo Sandoval formed, the legendary group Irakere. It's one of the most important groups in the history of Latin jazz. Yeah. No? How did that happen?
Denying it. Believe it or not, when Chucho came to me to do this group, I was in disgrace. I was punished at home. They were paying me a salary not to play the saxophone. He called me for his group. I said, you are crazy, Chucho. If you include me in your band, you will never travel out of this country. That is what you want to do. And Chucho said, I don't care. I want you in the band. That was very generous.
So how did the government allow Irakere to exist?
Fine, because Chucho was denying that I was jazz all the time.
He said it wasn't jazz.
But yeah, finally I said, okay, Chucho. Very simple. What can I do? All I play with this instrument is jazz. And you know that jazz here is a four-letter words. No está permitido eso aquí. That is our problem. You play whatever you want to play, and we cover it with Afro-Cuban drums, and we will call it socialist Afro-Cuban music, whatever. It's not your business. Play whatever you want, and we are covered with the night.
Now, you said that you told Chucho that you would not be able to travel if he hired you,
Yeah.
or if he brought you into the band, but you were allowed to travel. You toured the whole world.
Well, it was not easy.
Yeah.
Was not easy. First of all, I got married to a woman that I loved, and they knew it. And we have a kid.
And so they were at home, so they figured.
They figured out, okay, this guy is not going to leave. But there is a point where freedom is more important than nothing in the world, and freedom has a price, very hard price,
So
very high price.
And it was during a tour of Iraquere, when you were in Spain, that you went to the American Embassy.
The American Embassy, May 1980 was that. That was on the days of the Peruvian Embassy.
Right. The Mariel
events.
boat lift, the result of the Mariel
exactly.
boat lift. Why did you decide to leave at that moment?
That was extremely abusive. You know, the way they were treating people that wanted to leave the country, and was a nightmare. That was a real inferno. Havana was an inferno in those days.
So what happened to your wife and your kid? What happened? What were the repercussions to your family and your friends in Cuba?
What happened is that I had to wait for my kid for 9 years.
9 years.
I didn't see I lost my marriage and the childhood of my kid.
How important was Dizzy Gillespie to your career once you moved to the United States?
Dizzy Gillespie was very important in my career even before I came here,
How?
because that was one of the LP that my father came home after Benny Goodman. He came with an LP of Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker. Dizzy, his style and his personality was a great influence in my music, and also in my philosophy about music and jazz and all that. And then I met him in Havana in 1977. I remember I got home like at noon. It was so hot, and I found a paper bag. In those days, still they have paper bags. I said, Paquito, we have been looking for you. ¿Dónde estabas? Dizzy Gillespie.
Wow.
I said, what type of joke is this? Then I went to the La Bodega La Esquina, the grocery store. Did you receive the note? I said, what type of joke is this? Well, there was a black guy here, chubby, dressed like Sherlock Holmes, looking for you. Oh, that had to be Dizzy Gillespie. And was Dizzy Gillespie. That was the beginning of a great friendship, and he was very useful for me.
Yeah.
But he was very generous also.
Yeah.
And he opened many doors for me.
Now, Paquito, you're not only a jazz master, you're highly regarded as an interpreter and composer of classical music. Do you feel the same way about classical music that you do about your jazz?
Yeah, it's just different languages. I constantly say that there is a big gap in the music education in general. The classicals don't want to hear about jazz. The jazz people don't want to hear about classical music. It's a big mistake because jazz people are missing centuries of tradition, discipline, intonation, and history that the classical music has. On the other hand, classical people are missing the spontaneity of jazz music.
How important do you think is musical education for a child's overall education?
I think music education is important not only for people that are going to dedicate themselves to this profession, to everybody. Everybody should know how to play an instrument or to listen to music. I think the people should be educated. I have to share what I know, the little that I know, with people. And I love when the people say, no, you are wrong. Some people say that, no, that's not like that. So I learn from other people. When you think you are a finished musician, you are finished.